Hey everyone, so I'm going to do a video on imaginary numbers. So imaginary numbers arise when you get a non-real solution, meaning that your answer is not in the real realm of numbers. These are the most common powers of I. So I have I to the first is I squared is -1, I cubed is -I, and I to the fourth is 1. These are the ones I suggest you memorize. You can get them with your calculator though, so you really don't have to memorize them, but these are the ones you should know right away. Now, the reason why you learn about imaginary numbers is because it allows you to evaluate square roots that have a negative underneath them. Now, we know a square root cannot have a negative underneath them because there's no possible way to multiply a negative times a negative and still get a positive. And remember, a square root undoes something times itself, so it really doesn't work. So what we do when you have a negative underneath the radical, it actually ends up being a non-real answer. So when we see a negative under the radical, we're going to show that it's not real by breaking it up into the square root of -1 and the square root of 16. The square root of -1 is the imaginary part. It becomes I, and the square root of 16 is 4. So my answer is 4I for this. The next one I'm going to break up the same way. I have the square root of -1 and the square root of 8. Square root of -1 becomes I, but the square root of 8 I can break up into 4 and 2. And I can reduce the square root of 4 into 2, and the square root of 2 would stay, so my final answer would be 2I square root of 2. So in this example, we have simplifying a power of I. I to the 460 is very massive, so your calculator actually can do this for you. The first thing you need to do is make sure when you go to mode, when you click mode on your calculator, you're in A plus BI form. Once you are in A plus BI form, what you will do is you will press the button Math, and when you get to that screen for Math, you're going to go to Num and go to I part. And what you will do in your calculator is you will see the screen of I part with a parenthesis. You're going to type in I to the 460. Now the I symbol is you would have to press second, and the division, the decimal symbol, that's the I. So second decimal, and then you would raise it to 460. And that would actually output an answer of 1. The next question says find the sum of 3i to the 6th and 4i to the 2nd. Now if this was a part 2, you would have to show your work, so I would have to show that I know I'm adding, because I'm doing a sum. The best way to do this is to simplify each power of I, and then add them if they're like terms. So I'm going to go to my calculator and type in I part, I to the 6th, and I to the 6th is -1. And I'm going to type in I squared, I also get -1. And that's -3 plus a -4, your answer is -7. Now you can type this whole piece into I part in your calculator. So remember math, num, I part, and it is a good check to get -7. So for this example, I'm going to multiply because it says product. So I'm going to do 8i to the 12th times 4i squared. I'm going to first do 8 times 4, which is 32. And when you multiply, you add exponents, so it would be I to the 14th. I'm going to type in I to the 14th in my calculator by pressing math, num, I part, and doing second decimal value, which is I to the 14th, and that gets me a value of -1, and my answer is -32. Now you can type this whole piece into I part, and then you'll get the answer. You just need to show the steps if it was a part 2 problem.